Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein, and we're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Simon Plosker. He's the managing editor at Honest Reporting. Simon, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Tell us a little about what is Honest Reporting.
Well, Honest Reporting is the world's largest grassroots organisation dealing with anti-Israel media bias. And we have around 150,000 subscribers all around the world, and we give them the information to be able to respond to issues in the media where Israel is being treated unfairly.
So give us some examples, Simon, of the activities that you perform when it comes to keeping the media honest on what they're reporting in Israel.
Well, every day we go through all of the English language media from around the world. We also have affiliates looking at Portuguese from Brazil, France, and we basically analyse what's being written about Israel. Where we see errors, we get them corrected. Where we see bias, we take action. We give people the tools to be able to respond. So we send out email alerts to our subscribers, and we bombard the media with letters to the editor, complaints, and we get results.
Well, give us an example of some of the most egregious just lies that are spread about Israel in the media.
Well, some of these stories that we've seen are actually completely false, what could be called fake news. Just recently, for example, we saw something in the International Business Times where there was a story that there was an increase in raids on the Temple Mount by Jews of 200% from the year before. And it turned out that the International Business Times had taken a story straight from Hezbollah's Al-Manar media outlet, where they had classified tourists, Jewish students, and anyone else visiting the Temple Mount other than Muslims as being raiders of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And we, of course, pointed this out to the media outlet, and the entire story was removed. I mean, that's just a very extreme example of what we see. But obviously we see smaller errors than that. The Temple Mount, which we've already mentioned, is Judaism's holiest site, yet many in the media have been calling it other things, referring it to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and stating that the Western Wall is actually Judaism's holiest site, which is technically incorrect. And of course this is important, especially when there are arguments over the Jewish and of course the Christian connection to the Temple Mount as well. And we make sure to get these errors corrected.
Simon, we know about fake news long before the Trump era, but he's taken a magnifying glass and calling them out of just making up stories in the media. How has that helped the work that you're doing by people understanding that there is fake news now?
Well, I think it's definitely helped. We see a lot of people are now looking at the media with different eyes. They're being a little bit more skeptical about what they're seeing, and of course it's not just news about Israel, it's more than that, it's the news media in general. And we are making great efforts to educate the public about being good news consumers as well, being educated so that they know what they're looking at is not necessarily the full story, the full picture.
Well, one of the biggest questions that we get asked is, Israel's the only free democracy in the Middle East. It's the only place that protects freedom of the media, for example, yet the media seems to be singling us out instead of the dictatorships around us. Why is there such a bias in the media against the state of Israel?
Well, we don't have enough time, I think, to get into all of that, but you mentioned about why there's a bias and a focus on this country as opposed to our neighbours. Well, for a lot of the journalists here, it's all about access. If they write something bad about Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, then they may get kicked out of that country. And what good is a Middle East bureau chief if you cannot report from the rest of the Middle East, other than the one free democratic country in the region? So a lot of journalists are very, very careful about what they say about other countries. But of course in Israel we have a dynamic free press, and the domestic press here, as well as the international press, are very, very critical of Israel. And you know, sometimes that's warranted, but other times we have a disproportionate amount of focus on what's going on here.
Honest Reporting is well known here. People follow it. People know what's going on. What's the next in the future of Honest Reporting? Are you going to start branching out into different languages, into different reporting, taking it to different governments? What's the future of Honest Reporting?
Well, hopefully we're going to get bigger and better. As I've already mentioned, we are branching out into different languages. Maybe, for example, Spanish is something that's very important in the future. There are obviously big Hispanic communities in the United States that are getting the wrong information about this country. Of course, we're also on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and we want to be there 24/6. I say 24/6 because we don't work on the Jewish Shabbat, but we are there the rest of the time, and we want to improve the amount of news outlets we're looking at and getting more and more corrections.
Simon, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
You can actually make a difference. One person alone may not be able to do that, but together thousands can. And I would urge you, please sign up to Honest Reporting at our website. It's down here, and it's free, and you'll start receiving our information, and you'll be able to take action on behalf of Israel and, of course, for good, decent reporting.
Thank you, Simon, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.